So now let's talk about sex differences. And the reason why we call them sex differences is we're actually kind of talking about the biological differences that can be found between males and females, or human males and human females. So men in general tend to outperform women on visuospatial tasks. However, women tend to outperform men on memory tasks, or some memory tasks, depending on how they're asked. So here are two examples of tasks. So this would be considered a mental rotation task, and the question would be, if you were to rotate this image, these blocks, which of these answers would be correct? So I'm going to give you a second to think about it. There is only one correct answer here. And so if you're wondering which one is correct, it would be this third one. Now, most men, or I should say an average man, would outperform an average woman on this task, or more men would outperform women on this task. But of course, these are averages. Okay, so now here's an example of a visuospatial task. So I want you to, this is an object location memory, so I want you to look at this and try to remember where these objects lie. And if you'd like, pause this, and you should give yourself a minute to just try to familiarize yourself with where these objects are. Okay, now I'm going to change the slide. And what I want you to do is I want you to try to see which of these objects have moved. Alright, it's been changed. So you'll see some of these objects have flipped. So for example, the cat, I believe it's the cat in the bottle. Let me go back. I'm terrible at this task. So the cat stayed, but the bottle moved. And the bottle moved from here to here, and so then the glass will move over. So this would be an object location switch. See? So these two images switched. Now, in general, women outperform men on this task, or the average woman would do better than the average man on this task. So these would be sex differences between males and females. Let me go back to the previous slide. We also find that men are more physically aggressive than women. Many people think this has to do with testosterone and androgens that men have, but of course it possibly could be socialized as well. However, in one way in which women are more aggressive is verbal aggression. So women tend to be higher on verbal aggression than men. So again, you can argue whether these are evolutionarily explained. So maybe men are better at visuospatial tasks because they were hunters, and so they really needed to make sure that they knew how to throw that dart and be able to know what it would look like if, you know, it was rotated or whatnot. So they need more visuospatial skills, where women maybe needed to have better memories or object location because they stayed at home and they did a lot more of the domestic stuff. Maybe men are more physically aggressive because, of course, those men who were physically aggressive were more able to take care of their women and protect them from danger, and women maybe are better at verbal aggression because that's the way in which they're able to distance themselves from other females or distance their families from other females. Or, of course, we could argue the same exact thing in social reasons. So men do better in visuospatial tasks because there's more video games that are geared toward men. Women are better on memory tasks because women are told to stay at home and take care of the house more, and therefore we're better at locating objects in houses and otherwise. Men are more physically aggressive because men who are not aggressive are socialized to be called sissies or wimps, and women are more verbally aggressive because we are better verbally because we're allowed to talk out our thoughts more, and one way in which we talk out our thoughts are also in aggressive ways. So you can see these can be argued both ways. However, they still exist. These differences still exist regardless of the explanation, whether it's social or it's evolutionary. Okay, let me just skip through these. Okay, now of course this is a sexuality class, so we should talk about the sexuality differences between men and women. So we do see that men and women have different characteristics in sex partners, and not just in the United States, but over a study where they looked at 50 different nations. And you should be thinking that since I said it's done over 50 different nations, that this is more of an evolutionary nod, right? Because it's showing that it's not just something socialized in our culture, that this seems to be universal. So what are some of these differences? Well, women tend to be attracted to older partners and men tend to be attracted to younger partners across the 50 states, or a majority of them. Women are also more concerned with partners' wealth and status, and men are more concerned with physical attractiveness. Now, again, this doesn't mean that men are inherently shallow and women are all gold diggers. It just means that there are different reasons why men and women need to connect. So for men, they tend to be the ones who are the breadwinners, and this is still the case today, even in the US. So men are less concerned about what women are making because men feel pretty confident and sufficient that they will make enough money and that they will make more than their partner. So what are they more concerned with? What can the woman provide? Well, she provides genes, right? So she's going to give offspring. So her attractiveness level means a lot because that tells the potential mate, the male, if this is a heterosexual couple, that this person has good genes and will make attractive babies, which is something that the man cares about. For women, although of course she cares about her babies being attractive as well, there are other aspects in which she needs to think about. And one of them is that someone can provide, right? Now, of course, this is not universal, but this might be why. These are the explanations that evolutionary theorists give as to why these sex differences happen. Men masturbate more than women. It's just, there's tons of evidence showing this. So men seem to have a higher desire to have sex or sexual acts. Men also are more into casual sex. I don't know if you, I'm sure you guys have heard that before, but again, the research does support it, that this is not something that you just think in your head, that it truly, the research does seem to show that men want casual sex. So, for example, one study asked men and women how they felt after a one-night stand. So these are men and women who engaged in a one-night stand, meaning that they just had sex once with a partner and then likely didn't talk to them or have any, relationship afterwards. And men were more likely to say that they felt satisfied, and women were more likely to bring up words like regret or shame. So again, some of this could be social, and that women are told that casual sex isn't good for them or something they should do, but also it might be evolutionary. It's probably a mixture of both. Men are more interested in visual stimuli than women, and this is why most pornography is geared towards men. There is pornography out there geared towards women, but the vast majority of it is not. Women are more likely to experience emotional jealousy, and men are more likely to experience sexual jealousy. This is what we call the double shot hypothesis. So let me explain what this is. So this is the idea. There was a question asked in a research study to men and women, what would upset you more if your partner had sex with someone else but was not in love with them, or if your partner fell in love with someone else but did not have sex with them? So they force them to choose this, right? It's not just what upsets you. If you ask them just, what is highly upsetting to people, and you list a bunch of things, and in this list there is both your partner cheating on you sexually or your partner cheating on you, falling in love with someone else, people rate them both as highly upsetting. But this is actually when you force someone to choose what's more upsetting: if your partner has sex with another person but does not fall in love, or your partner falls in love with a person but does not have sex. We find that women are more likely to get upset if their man, again, this is all heterosexual men and heterosexual women, Women are more upset if they find out that their man fell in love with another person but did not have sex. And men are more likely to experience jealousy if they find out that their woman has had sex with someone else and hasn't fallen in love. Well, why? Well, we call this the double shot hypothesis, and this is the idea that if you are a heterosexual man and your female partner, your woman, goes out and cheats on you and has sex, the idea is that we as a culture or as a society or evolutionarily believe that women are incapable of having sex without falling in love. Maybe not deep ends of love, but at least having an emotional attachment. So if a woman were to cheat and come back to her partner and say, honey, it didn't mean anything, it was just sex, men are less likely to believe that. So it's a double shot. So they had sex and it implies that they must have fallen in love or at least had strong attractions to this person. On the other side, the same idea is happening for heterosexual women who have their partners cheat. So they believe that their man is incapable of having an emotional experience with another person, falling in love with another person without having sex. And if they didn't have sex, the idea is that wasn't his choice. So he might not have had sex, but he would have had sex if the partner would have let him. So again, that double shot, that a man couldn't come back and say, I've fallen in love with this girl, but we didn't have sex. The woman who had that, the woman whose partner said that to her is likely to think something like, yeah, I don't believe you, I think you did have sex, or fine, if you didn't have sex, it wasn't by your choice. It was likely that your partner, your other female partner said no, and therefore it's not by choice. So this is the double shot. So one implies the other.